Bob Costas and Tony Kubek welcome you to the Astrodome. You've gotten here just in time for the first pitch. And we'll pick up for you with the lineups and all the other pertinent details as we move along. Mark Portugal, the former Minnesota Twin, 26-year-old right-hander, is the starter for the Astros. Brett Butler stands in, and a called strike one from plate umpire Frank Pullen. A big crowd on hand. The only empty area is the upper deck, and that's not available for baseball seating right now. Those are the new football seats that are under construction. A ball and a strike to the Giant leadoff man, who's hitting .283.
Butler, of course, an outstanding bunter. He's got 16 bunt base hits. That may be Portugal's best pitch foul. That curveball you just saw from the center field camera. Also an outstanding straight change. On times the ball in the high 80s, but they say it's straight, so he'll have to establish the off-speed stuff. Caminiti in for Butler.
And the 1-2 pitch. A bouncing ball, and Davis has the chopper. He'll beat him to the bag. Even with 2 strikes, Caminiti was even with the bag. He'd been in a little bit closer before the count went to 1-2 on Butler, respecting the possibility that he might bunt.
And perhaps because Caminiti playing with a tender hamstring, the Houston Astros have several nagging injuries. Their center fielder Gerald Young, tender behind the knee. Glenn Davis, a tender left foot. And somewhat of a shocking loss the last 2 days. Dave Smith, a home run to Eddie Murray. Finished that ball game off, and they had a 5-1 lead a couple days ago, and last night Will Clark.
Robbie Thompson, as you see, has already achieved a career high in the home run department, and he plays an excellent second base, turning the pivot about as well as anybody. In center field, Gerald Young doesn't have far to go. The essence of nonchalance. We welcome those of you who watch the game from the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. What a contrast, huh? From Wrigley to the Astrodome. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek, you haven't missed much. Top of the first. Brett Butler bounced out to Glenn Davis at first, and Robbie Thompson just flied out to center fielder Gerald Young. So with 2 out and nobody aboard, here's Will Clark, whose homer in the 7th off Jim Clancy won it last night for the Giants. And a ball outside and low. On Thursday night, the Astros squandered a 9th inning lead for only the 2nd time all year. It's been their trademark to come from behind and win in that fashion, but not to blow them that way. Dave Smith allowed a 3-run homer to pinch hitter Eddie Murray of the Dodgers, and they lost 7-5. Then last night, they had a 2-1 lead at one point. Clark's homer gave the Giants a 1-run victory. So in the last 48 hours, the Astros have fallen further back in the race instead of closing ground, and they now trail by 3. That'll make the seats foul.
Well, Clark has been somewhat surprised that the Astros continue to pound him inside. He said, the way I've been hitting the ball more to left field this year, you'd think they would not play me as much to pull. And that's what he was just doing. When he stepped out, he was looking around the entire outfield and infield alignment, and that might tell him what the pitching pattern will be against him. And he says they're going to keep pounding me in. No change. Look at how much they've swung over. Gerald Young toward right center field. Not a shift in the infield, but look at Caminiti well off the bag.
And Portugal's 3-1 pitch. Sinker or a split finger of some kind.
I think it's what they call the circle change, and it's a little bit of the Frank Viola, Alan Anderson influence, taught by Dick Such when he was a Minnesota Twin. It looks like a screwball at times, Bob, is what it looks like. When he throws it harder and changes speed, it looks like that split finger.
So a 2-out walk to Clark, and as Kevin Mitchell strides to the plate, let's take a look at the rest of Roger Craig's lineup. He's got Rick Russell pitching today at 13-4, but we'll have to watch him. He missed a start a while back, and then in his last outing in Atlanta in midweek, he only went 5 innings and reported that the groin pull was keeping him from pushing off the rubber the way he'd like to. A strike at the letters.
Here's a guy they'd like to pound inside with the fast stuff. He stands right on the plate. You go in too far, you might hit him with a pitch, and then the ball drifts out over the plate. He really dives into the ball.
1-1 the count to him.
Bob, you mentioned that home run that Strawberry hit off Dave Smith. Smith had not given up a home run in the Dome since 1986, and that was to Darryl Strawberry. So they're starting to suffer out of the pen.
Good fastball from Portugal.
If you hadn't heard the news, Bob Knepper released by Houston. I would guess. I think that some American League club might take a chance on him. Maybe to Boston, maybe Minnesota, the Yankees perhaps.
The 1-2. Got him. Mitchell was betwixt and between, but the ball had a healthy portion of the plate. No score after half an inning. When was the last time you saw a catcher leading off? But Craig Biggio has exceptional speed, handles the bat well. He's at the top of the order. Rafael Ramirez at short, Bill Doran at second, Davis the cleanup man, Poulden left, steady veteran, keeps contributing. Switch hitting third baseman Ken Caminiti. Eric Anthony, super prospect, just up from the minor leagues, vaulted over AAA, came from Columbus last night. He's the right fielder hitting seventh. Gerald Young down at the bottom of the order is the number 8 hitter. He's second in the league to Vince Coleman in stolen bases, and Portugal is the pitcher.
And although Gerald Young has begun to hit over the last week or so, they're going to keep him in that A spot because Biggio has been hitting very well, stealing bases, 13 for 13, a good bunter. He was out working again yesterday. He likes to drop the ball down third. Now he's working on pushing it to the right side, and that gets them in at the corners for him. Biggio and Caminiti have been a big plus for this team.
He tries to bunt but fouls it off. Rick Russell had a 9-game winning streak at one point in the season along the way to building this 13-4 record. You remember he was rocked in the All-Star game by the first inning homers off the bats of Bo Jackson and Wade Boggs. He picked up a victory his last time out. It was a combined shutout at Atlanta. He had to leave in the 6th inning. That was his first win in 5 starts.
His last 2 outings, he's gone just 5 innings, and you can see the walk total going up a little bit. Great sinker, great change of speeds, outstanding movement.
Slow roller, Uribe in. Gets rid of it gracefully, safe at first. Now, how many catchers would have had a chance to beat that ball out?
None playing presently. Some, they're trying to research it, and they think that Tim McCarver, as a young kid with the Cardinals, did lead off. Watch how unorthodox Uribe is. Remember they used to say you throwing off the wrong foot. I do believe that he had him by about a foot.
So here's Biggio, who many people think could be a pretty good second baseman if they wanted to use him there. As Tony said, he's swiped 13 without being caught. Ramirez at 253. Watch this play again, Tony. Phil Garner, the first base coach, signals safe, but obviously he's got a vested interest. You be the judge.
Uribe off the wrong foot, and he got such a good jump out of the box. I thought he had him by a foot. Very close call, but when you swing at a pitch as he did, a breaking ball away on your right hand, and you get an outstanding jump out of the box. You got that extra step. Neither of these two teams hit the ground in a lot of double plays for 2 different reasons. The Giants do not have a lot of speed, Bob, but they start a lot of runners. Houston has a lot of speed. That's one of the reasons they do not hit in the double plays. Tough guy to steal on. Hardly any leg kick at all by Rick Russell. He is very quick to home plate, one of the quickest in the big leagues.
2-0 to Ramirez. You know, I was thinking about the year John Wathan stole 35, 36 bases, set the modern record for steals by a catcher, but of course the Royals had Willie Wilson at the top of the order, so Wathan never would have hit leadoff. I remember Thurman Munson hitting second often for the Yankees, but they had Mickey Rivers. He was the leadoff man. Except for maybe a game or 2 by McCarver, as you mentioned, I can't recall ever seeing a catcher hit leadoff.
No.
I'm sure the old-timers in the audience have many examples, and there may have been a game where a guy like Mickey Cochran did it.
Well, I remember John Walker broke the single-season record of Ray Cracker Shaw. Well, obviously, had good speed as a catcher. You wonder if he might have done it. We'll try and research it, and we've called around, and other people have, and haven't been able to track it down yet.
2 balls and a strike. Let's see if Biggio's going. Russell thinks he might be.
You know, people think that Russell is just a pitcher who throws a lot of slow stuff. There are times in the ball game, many times with men on base, he'll throw 6 or 7 pitches up to 90 miles an hour. But with the groin pull, unable to push off, don't know if he's got that extra little blast of speed. But that's how he can spot the ball. Talking to Ron Fairley, well, he was obviously a fine hitter, and he's one of the Giants broadcasters, said that Russell, after you watch him, just has a great feel. When he thinks a hitter's catching up to the fastball, he pulls the string. When he thinks he's sitting on the off-speed stuff, he gives the little extra, and he says he appears to almost do it while he's in stride, like sensing it.
There he goes on 2-2. It's a tough pitch to throw on, and they won't have a play. So Biggio has immediately justified the judgment of Art Howe in making an unorthodox move. Catcher in the leadoff spot. He beats out an infield hit and then swipes second. You know, there was not a pitch out call, but I wonder, as we watch Biggio on this steal, if Russell didn't sense something, tried to pitch out, but got the ball too low. A bouncing ball to second. Ramirez gets the job done as Thompson throws him out, and Biggio's at third with only 1 away. Well, if that was Russell's intent, like you say, he didn't execute it very well because he gave Terry Kennedy no chance at all. If he wanted to do it, even though a pitch out wasn't called, he wanted it up in the strike zone. Or up away. Nice piece of hitting by Rafael Ramirez. And that means that the infield will come in even this early in the ball game. Billy Doran's been in a slump. That may be the reason. And he takes a ball. We have in this game the 2 second basemen, who many feel were slighted when the all-star rosters were filled out. Sandberg was the starter. Willie Randolph selected by Tommy Lasorda as a reserve, and Doran and Robbie Thompson of the Giants were overlooked. This will get the run home. It's Mitchell in left center as Biggio tags. He can walk home from there. 1-0 Astros. There's Art Howe, who has added more of a placid dimension to this ball club. Hal Lanier, outstanding baseball man. Some thought he was too volatile, and all Art Howe ever does is think positive, talk positive, rarely gets on his players. And they seem to play much more relaxed. Even after the last couple of ball games where they've lost, they come to the clubhouse, and you just feel a relaxed atmosphere around Art Howe. And with the young players, the Biggios and the Caminittis and all, you need that kind of atmosphere for the kids. Glenn Davis with 21 homers and 59 RBIs, placing him among the league leaders in both categories. There goes the bat. The ball's in Kennedy's glove, and Dusty Baker was among those on the Giant bench who went scrambling. Watch this play from last night, Tony. Something rarely seen. Watch the backswing on the practice. Doug Harvey throws his arms up and says, wait a minute. He felt that Davis's bat had touched the mask of catcher Terry Kennedy. So he called time and disallowed what would have been an RBI single. Gerald Young would have scored from third. Pitch up in his eyes, and he fouls it back of first. Clark has no play. It was in the 5th inning with the score tied 2-2. There's Harvey's hands in the air as the pitch is delivered by Don Robinson. This would have given the Astros the lead. Instead, Young was sent back to third. Davis popped up to end the inning, and the Astros eventually lost the game on Will Clark's homer, 3-2. I watched that replay this morning. Stop action, slow motion. I don't know how many times, never could see it hit anything. And it's interesting. Harvey said it hit the mask on the backswing. Glenn Davis said, I felt nothing. Kevin Bass, an observer who's on the DL, said, I thought it hit the glove or the mask. Kennedy says one time it hit the glove, next time it's the mask. It's imperceptible. You can't see it in any kind of replay we've seen down here. Doug Harvey either heard it, saw it, stopped play. Had it been on the forward swing, it's a different ruling.
you have an option on catcher's interference. You could have taken the base hit, but this was on the backswing. Something that Davis, Bob, has started since the All-Star break. To relax him a little more, he's done what Yogi has done, that Brett did. Right there. Backswing. Did it hit the mask? Did it hit the glove? Kennedy shows no indication.
A little squibber out in front of the plate, and he may beat it out. He does.
If he throws, I think he may have had a play. But apparently he felt he might hit the run, and that's the play if the catcher wants, is to take that ball and throw it and hit the guy in the back and take a chance that interference will be called or obstruction, that he's running in the baseline. A little slider, and these are the kind of pitches that get Glenn Davis in trouble. Those perfect pitches out of the strike zone that he swings at. Will Clark wanted the ball. Kennedy did not feel he had a play.
I guess the question that might be asked about the call from last night was whether in any practical sense it had an effect on the play. Technically, Doug Harvey is right in the call he made if in fact Kennedy's mask was touched by the backswing. But there might be a common sense argument that says, hey, it's so imperceptible, it had no real effect, let it go. But Doug, of course, is as much of a stickler for the letter of the law as any umpire in the majors. And he's one of the best umpires in the majors.
The question that Art Howe had, and it was a judgment that entered in this ruling, was, and Art Howe was saying, boy, the pitcher, Don Robinson, was about ready to release the ball. It was too late to call time and stop play. He said, but I can't argue that judgment. May have been a little delayed reaction, and so a mild argument from Art Howe. But after watching the replays this morning, he thought should have been a base hit.
Poole is jammed. He pops one in foul ground. Kennedy is over there along with Matt Williams, and it's Kennedy for the catch. A run, a couple of infield hits, a stolen base, and a sacrifice fly. And Russell is down a run after. This pretty much frames the matchup for you. Rick Russell 13-4. Mark Portugal has never had a winning season at the major league level. He was 3-3 last year for the Twins. Almost every year he's up and down between the minors and the majors. And realistically, Art Howe just hopes for 5 or 6 decent innings from him today to keep his club in the game, and then he can get into that deep bullpen of his. Maldonado to start the second. Takes high for a ball.
Well, the Astros in that controversial deal where, well, actually a free agent, Nolan Ryan, left, go to the Texas Rangers. They've been looking for a right-hander. They got Jim Clancy, free agency market during the offseason. He pitched well early, then was hurt. Pitched decently last night, and they're still hoping Portugal can help fill in from the right side also. The Shays has been good. Mike Scott has been absolutely times unhittable. And this is the kind of guy, Portugal, in the bigger National League ballparks with the changeup, if he can spot his fastball, can take advantage with control of the big center fields in the National League.
He's behind Maldonado 3-0. He's yo-yoed between Houston and Tucson. His second trip back to the big club this year. And a 4-pitch walk to open the second. In fact, tosses the gum away in disgust. Matt Williams is the next hitter. In fact, they brought him back the second time really because they had a situation where the schedule was backing up on them. They had 3 doubleheaders in a run of 10 days, and it was thought that he'd be returned to Tucson. Then they abruptly released Bob Nepper yesterday, and although Rick Rhoden has come back, he pitched the other night for the first time since early May, his status is uncertain, so they thought they'd better keep Portugal around.
Pat Williams is a good fastball hitter with power. Outstanding third baseman in your picture right now. Trouble with the breaking pitches.
Tried to run that fastball in on him, and it sails up and in too far, and now that finally brings Biggio to the mound.
Well, he knew what Matt Williams would like to do. Get the ball through the right side if he can. He was going to try and run the fastball in, a two-seamer. Maybe get him to pull it to the left side and get a double play out of it.
Hit hard and foul, a ball and a strike.
A spot that's been tough most of the year is that 5th spot in the order. Candy Maldonado recently has begun hitting to give some protection to Kevin Mitchell. Maldonado falters again and doesn't hit. You can always, Roger Craig can always put Williams in that spot. He's got home run potential.
Except Williams has never really fulfilled his potential at the big league level. He flashes that occasional power, but in 70 at-bats, separated by a trip back to Phoenix this year, 70 major league at-bats, he's hitting 157 with 2 home runs.
You just got to let this guy play. Let him alone. It's difficult to do in a pennant race, but if they move some more ground between Houston and themselves, they can just throw this guy out there, say whatever you hit's fine, play some defense. He can also play shortstop, but not with Uribe out there.
Through the middle, base hit. Maldonado to second, and he'll stop there as Young gets it back in. Well, you saw the numbers on your screen, which Williams posted at Phoenix.
Batting 7, 16.
For the last 2 years or so, they've tabbed him at the beginning of the season each time as their regular third baseman. And each time he's been unable to handle it at the big league level. He confesses that he was humbled by his latest trip back to Phoenix. And he responded by tearing the Pacific Coast League apart. And now here he is again with the Giants. 2 on, nobody out for Terry Kennedy.
Williams has got time. What's he, 23 years old?
Bouncing ball. They might get 2. Kennedy doesn't run well. There's 1. And Ramirez can't turn it as Williams goes in hard on the takeout.
He's got to throw that ball somehow. He had enough time to sidestep the runner completely and still, with Kennedy running, get the double play. Good, hard, aggressive slide. You'll always get there quicker, obviously, with runners on first and second, where the first baseman is not holding you on. But you'll see he has to hold up for the ball to get by, and Ramirez did have time to sidestep and still throw because Kennedy was a little more than halfway down.
Ball's not hit sharply, Tony, as it tails away from him, but as we all know, Kennedy is a plodding base runner, and they still had a chance for the twin killing.
Yeah, look where Kennedy is. He's halfway down. Ramirez has got the ball.
Here's Uribe. Comes up empty on his first swing. So Maldonado at third, Kennedy at first. Astros leading 1-0, and Uribe eyeing the third base coach.
I wonder if Rafael Ramirez forgot who was running on that play. You think? I mean, he wasn't upset. He wasn't knocked down. Forgot there was a catcher up.
What else does he have to have on his mind? 1-1. Uribe abandoned switch hitting for a while and then returned to it. That was a year or so ago. Called strike from Frank Bullock.
Uribe, let's see, about 5'7", 5'8", very durable. He's played 102 ball games. Only Will Clark has played more for the Giants, 103. He won't go out of the lineup. Roger Craig goes to him day after day, and especially through that hot stretch in Atlanta. Said, "Do you want to rest?" "Nope, I'm going to play." And he said a pretty good example for some players who would like to get out when they're tired or hurt.
Lays off, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Maldonado back to third and Kennedy at first. The pitcher Russell, who's a decent hitter for a pitcher, is on deck.
There are some managers, and Billy Martin was one, and there are others. There's Rick. Do not believe you should throw a lot of off-speed pitches to the number 8 hitter. They feel you should go after him with power stuff. He's already seen a couple of curveballs and a changeup. There's another breaking pitch. It's the kind of pitch to a number 8 place center where who doesn't have power, you hang the breaking ball to the changeup, he can hurt you. You power the fastball by him if you can, and less likely to get in trouble.
Whoa. Seattle jumping on the A's in the top half of the first. No homers for the Mariners in that inning, but they throw 8 on the board. The 2-2 pitch got him. He got Mitchell looking to end the first, and in a spot where he really needed to put a K in the scorebook, Uribe goes down swinging here in the second.
Biggio sets up outside, and he goes right at the target with a little tailing fastball. One of the knocks on Portugal was that at times he's in the high 80s, but his fastball is straight. And that would be the job of a pitching coach, to try something with the seams and vary a grip or finger pressure to try and get movement. That ball tailed away nicely. Les Moss, of course, the pitching coach.
Russell with a bouncing ball. Ramirez comes in, has time to unload. Portugal, after walking the first man and then allowing a single, gets out unscathed. To get to 21 World Series appearances overall, Yogi piloted the Yankees and Mets into the Fall Classic once each, and then there were 5 World Series appearances as a coach as well.
Frankie Crucetti, the former Yankee coach, I believe has 22 World Series appearances. Yogi's still trying to catch him.
1-1 to Ken Caminiti. Russell down 1-0 as he works here in the second. Talking with Art Howe before the game, he expressed concern about what Frank Pulley's strike zone would be like today. He said the last time we had Pulley, he had a very wide strike zone, and that's the worst possible news you can have if Rick Russell is going against you. Because if he allows him a couple inches outside, well, Russell will just push it and find the outer limits. With a control guy like Russell, the last thing you want is a plate ump with a liberal strike zone.
And especially when you got young hitters like Biggio, Caminiti, Eric Anthony, Gerald Young, and Glenn Davis, who swings at a lot of bad pitches.
Well, liberal strike zone or not, the control artist issues a leadoff walk to Caminiti. Now here comes quite a story. Eric Anthony at Columbus, Georgia. That's AA ball. He was hitting 300 for the Columbus Mudcats with 28 home runs, the highest figure, as you see, anywhere in the minor leagues. He'd also struck out 127 times. That's in AA ball. And some people were surprised when they elevated him to the big show at this stage. Strike one, and stuck him right in the starting lineup. He played his first major league game last night, went 0 for 4 with a strikeout against Don Robinson.
Last year at Asheville, he had 29 home runs. His father lives right in the Houston area. Eric lives with him. He's going to make some mistakes, but he has a good throwing arm, better than average running speed, and for a right fielder, that's something sometimes hard to find. Terrific power to all fields. Doesn't pull everything.
I asked Art Howe, at this point, what's his biggest weakness? And Art just put on a wry smile and said, I can't tell you that. Just suffice to say he's new. And whatever that takes in, those are his weaknesses.
There are always comparisons, no matter anytime a young slugger especially comes up, and people were already saying yesterday, some of the scouts here, that his follow-through on his swing reminds them of Freddie McGriff, the league's leading home run leader in the American League.
Here's the 1-2 from Russell. And a high drive to deep right center. Welcome to the big leagues, Eric Anthony.
Well, if you think Eric Anthony's excited, you ought to see the booth to our right. Whoa, did he mash that baby?
The GM, Bill Wood, and his assistant, Bob Watson, are going wild off to our right, and there's a strike to Gerald Young.
Well, they talked to a lot of people as to whether or not Eric Anthony could handle the jump from AA to the major leagues in the height of a pennant race. Larry Heisel, hitting instructor down there for them, said, oh yeah. Bob Watson saw him personally, said he thinks so. They checked with the Cleveland people where they brought up young Joey Bell from AA ball, and he said if he's got the temperament of Bell, which Eric Davis does, he can handle it.
A chopper. Thompson's got to hurry with Young scooting down the line, and he gets him. Watch this swing. This ball wasn't so much hit as it was launched.
He's got that little slight uppercut. Remember we told you about the follow through and the bat speed through the ball and the extension that Freddie McGriff has? Look familiar? Well, perhaps with all the rumors, maybe George Bell coming here and Gerald Young looking for that power hitter to go along with foul ball, to go along with Glenn Davis. If they found him in Eric Anthony, if he is for real, if he can do more of what he just did, that's Eric Yelding, another kid right next to him. They may not have to make a trade for George Bell or anyone else. In fact, those rumors and speculations are true.
The Houston people are very impressed by Anthony's presence. 21 years old, they say he's not cocky, but he has a self-assurance about him that you'd associate with a guy who's been around the big leagues much longer than 24 hours.
See, they've had a good experience here already. Craig Biggio had just a couple of hundred bats at AAA ball. They rushed him after Alan Ashby was hurt, and he was released. And they've had success with Biggio, and they said, let's try Eric Anthony. But they had so much input from all their scouts. And I think Bill Woods, the general manager, with a lot of input from Bobby Watson, said, let's try it.
A bouncing ball by Portugal. Uribe backhands it and throws him out.
There are some who think, and of course his manager Roger Craig is going to say that every time, that he is the best defensive shortstop in this league. Not Barry Larkin, not Ozzie Smith anymore. And Uribe is awfully good, isn't he?
He's in the argument.
Oh yeah, he's in the argument.
But Ozzie still reigns until conclusive proof is offered by anyone else. Look at those eyes darting around.
Catcher number 7, Craig Biggio.
Out of the Dominican Republic. Like it seems most shortstops are these days in the big leagues. That's an exaggeration, but there are an awful lot. On the other side of the field, and Rafael Ramirez also.
Biggio had an infield hit, stole second, moved up on Ramirez's ground out, and scored on Doran's sacrifice fly in the first. Anthony has just clouded a 2-run homer. It's 3-0 Astros.
That was a terrific first inning, and it might be a typical inning, unless it's a Glenn Davis 3-run home run for the Astros. Infield single, stolen base, excellent by Ramirez to the right side, and then the sac fly.
In for a strike.
Some scouts who saw Rick Russell in his last outing, the one you talked about, Bob, where he pitched 5, thought, and it was just a thought, that perhaps a recurrence of his shoulder problem was hitting him. He won't say anything to anybody. He's so tough. He just wants the ball. And it wasn't simply the groin pull. He said his delivery looked like it was changed. He was pushing the ball more than extending and throwing it. But again, that's speculation. That's as many wins as Bob Lemon, who's in the Hall of Fame.
And his career was given up for dead. He missed all of the 1982 season with a rotator cuff problem. Practically had to beg for a job. He was pitching in outposts like Columbus and Quad Cities, Hawaii, and the Pittsburgh chain. Finally fought his way back with a woeful Pirate team before Sid Thrift dealt him to San Francisco. Drops down sidearm, and Biggio holds up. Scott Medvin, the catcher, and Jeff Robinson, the right-handed pitcher, went from the Giants a couple of years ago to Pittsburgh in exchange for Russell. Both clubs benefited because Thrift was trying to clear out the veterans and build with younger players. But we see what Russell has done at Candlestick. Clark back over into the bullpen and runs out of room.
People forget how good a first baseman Will Clark is. It's not just that they're so good in the middle of the diamond with Butler, Uribe, and Robbie Thompson. Now that they've got Williams at third and Clark at first, it is an excellent infield from third all the way around to his position. Two very aggressive cornermen, Williams and, as you just saw, Will Clark.
The 2-2 pitch. Deep and foul down the left side.
You know, Yogi, who is the hitting instructor, has helped Biggio a lot, and Yogi has a way of dealing with young players. It's not just the bunting, which Eddie Napoleon, another coach, has, but Yogi has gotten him now where he's sitting on some breaking balls against certain pitchers. He said, hey, look, you can't pull everything in the big leagues, maybe in the minor leagues, but once in a while you might think breaking ball away and go the opposite direction.
Well, that home run Anthony hit earlier in this inning simply electrified this ballpark. There's a different sound that a select few hitters have when the ball leaves their bat. There are home run hitters, and then there are guys who bring everyone to their edge of the seat, to the edge of their seat in anticipation. Anthony looks like he could be that kind of guy.
You know, the interesting thing about Eric Anthony, everybody knew he was called up. Everybody had heard about his power. And when he came into the batting cage yesterday before he started his first Major League game, there were a lot of San Francisco Giants who were doing their stretching, who stopped and watched him hit to see what pitches hit, but then they were a little bit astounded to see balls going as far as they were into the right center field seats off his bat during batting practice.
To show you how much less reliable your scouting reports are about young baseball players who come out as high schoolers as opposed to basketball players or football players where you get to watch them through a different stage of maturity. Anthony was taken in the 34th round of the 1986 draft. Here's a blast by Biggio. Butler back. Goodbye. Well, Biggio has really opened up his portfolio today. He's twice tried to bunt. He's beaten out an infield hit. He's stolen a base. And now he goes 400 feet over the fence in dead center. Ramirez with a soft bounder to a rebound. And that'll do it. They got a run on finesse in the first. And then 3 more on 2 flashes of lightning in the second. Back after this from your local station.
Is brought to you by Mitsubishi, bringing you the Eclipse Sports Coupe. See it at your Mitsubishi Motors dealer. By Extra Gold Draft, the beer with a big, bold, full-tilt taste. By Tandy Computers, because there is no better value, meeting America's diverse personal computing needs. And by Scope, the best thing, first thing in the morning.
Well, he did just that a moment ago. Here's Russell's pitch. Out over the plate where he can extend his arms a little bit higher than belt level, and boom.
This is a ballpark where the ball is not supposed to carry. That one just kept going. I'll show you the strength of young Craig Biggio.
Here's Butler skying one harmlessly to left, and Poole makes the catch to start the third.
You know, Bobby, you were talking about Biggio and the possibility. I think it's been thought of when you've got somebody with this kind of speed, you know after a few years up and down behind the plate, the speed will gradually diminish and maybe be gone completely. I think they've thought about third base, and if Ken Caminiti with that rifle throwing arm didn't have a bad knee, maybe they would make that kind of switch. Biggio to third and Caminiti behind the plate. Very few catchers have ever lasted with it. Yogi was one, even in his mid-30s, ran decently for a catcher, played some left field. It's just a matter of time before the muscles tighten up and the speed's gone.
2 quick strikes to Robbie Thompson, and this is the best thing that could possibly happen to Mark Portugal, who's on the borderline, not just in terms of the starting rotation, but a big league job of any sort. Now he's been staked to a 4-0 lead, and he can just come at guys and throw strikes. And there's that good changeup, which has that dropping action.
Number 22, first baseman.
Robbie Thompson not quite as deep a crouch. It almost looked like he tightened that curveball up and went more between a slider and a curve on the last one. A little bit harder curveball with a little tighter spin. Yeah, he can trust his stuff better right now, Bob. In this bigger ballpark, you got a lead and you go after the hitters and get ahead of them, which he didn't do early.
That's his 3rd strikeout. He's issued 2 walks, one of them to this guy, Will Clark, in the first. The 1-0. A little mustard on that one, 1-1.
And that's what getting the curve and change will do. The smart hitters like Will Clark see that, and that fastball upstairs looks a little bit better. Not for his home run last night. And Kevin Mitchell, the 3-hitter by John Smoltz of Atlanta, beats him with a 2-run home run. This could be almost a disastrous road trip for San Francisco. There are a lot of games on the road. Once they hit end of August, they've got a very favorable, the Giants do, home schedule, and they're all but unbeatable there so far.
Here's a drive to deep right, and this one is into the seats for Will Clark's 2nd home run in about 18 hours.
Ooh.
Man, was that crushed.
Well, you've heard it before that a man he never met, Ted Williams, has had an influence on his swing. Fastball, mid-thigh, inside part of the plate. They talk about left-handed hitters. If you're right-handed, don't pitch them down and in. Probably the pitch a guy can leverage the most.
So Eric Anthony, who had a titanic shot of his own a few moments ago, watches this one sail over his head for Will Clark's 16th homer.
You know, Will was talking after that home run, and bringing to mind a kid named Barry Butera that he knew, and he said Butera was in the Red Sox organization and was under the tutelage for 3 years of Ted Williams. And he said, I got all Ted Williams theories secondhand from Barry Butera. This guy got his knowledge a lot from Dusty Baker and Willie Mays.
Called strike 3 the second time. Portugal has gotten Mitchell looking. A run on Clark's homer, but it's still 4-1 Astros. Al Lanier lasted 3 years in Houston, took them to the division title and a loss in a heart-pounding playoff series against the Mets in '86. Fly ball to right. Maldonado makes the catch to retire Doran, leading off in the last half of the third. And then after 3 years, Lanier was fired, and at age 42, Art Howe gets his first chance and is capitalizing on it nicely.
He had to be a student of the game. He's not gifted with a lot of ability. Hitting instructor from Bobby Valentine and the Rangers. Signed off the Sandlights in Pittsburgh. He was past 25 or 6 years of age. His friends said, why don't you try it? You can hit. Became an excellent hitter.
Played for Danny Murtaugh, for Bill Verdon, for Whitey Herzog briefly, and they all influenced him. Davis squibbed one up the first base line and beat it out in the first.
Davis playing through a painful foot bruise. You can see the guard as we look at his numbers first on that left foot. He fouled the ball off it, and against the Dodgers, missed a game against the Dodgers the other day. He asked to play, especially devised foot guard in case he fouls another one of those low inside sinker balls from Rick Russell. Like he thinks it's helped him a little bit. He's not lunging and transferring the weight too much to his front foot because it's a little sore hit. Staying back better.
Russell at age 40. Bouncer. That is just foul. Doug Harvey calls it foul. The crowd reacts thinking Davis is aboard. But a foul ball as Matt Williams charged. It was hugging that line, and at the last minute as he made the play, up went Harvey's hands.
You will watch also from this angle Frank Pulley, because he's coming down the line. He's going to line it up right down the line, because before it gets to first base, it's his call. And Harvey's waiting, so they coordinate, and they're both right on the play. You can see the guard, and he played the other day against the Dodgers, and what happened the first 2 times up against Ramon Martinez, the young right-hander, hits doubles in the gap that he had to run out hard. Playing through a little bit of pain.
2-2 pitch, swung on and missed. And that's the first strikeout for Russell. Russell was 19 and 11 a year ago. His second highest win total.
He takes something off every one of his pitches and puts it on. It's what they call at times. He's in and out, but he's also back and forth pitcher with all his pitches. The curveball, the slider, he drops down. The sinker ball, little on, little off.
Poole hits the first one through the hole, a 2-out single.
You know, Rick Russell puts it in about the simplest terms. He said hitting is timing, and you've heard it before, folks, but my job is to upset timing. And that's what he does with the change of speeds.
Russell has been a 20-game winner once in his career. He was 20 and 10 for the 1977 Cubs. If he should win 20 this year, he has 13 victories right now. He would have the largest space between 20 victory seasons in the history of baseball, a 12-year space. That's without having won 20 in between. Obviously, a guy like Warren Spahn won 20 13 times in his career, and there is a large spacing between the first and the last, as he did it at age 42 for the last time. Caminiti's bullet is a base hit. Poole is on his way to third. 2 on for Eric Anthony here in the last half of the third inning.
And I think what we're seeing here, even when he gets the low ball hitters like Caminiti up, he doesn't have the little extra fastball he hadn't even gone to try and throw it by them up and in to keep them honest. And they can just go down, and if they swing at good pitches, they're starting to hit him fairly hard.
In his 5th major league at bat, he hit his first major league homer. A monumental shot into the seats in right center an inning ago. Swings over it, strike one. The guy at third base for the Giants, Matt Williams, was their #1 pick and the 3rd pick overall in the 1986 June free agent draft. In that same draft of amateur players, the kid at the plate for Houston, Eric Anthony, was not taken until the 34th round. Talk about a diamond in the rough. 2 on, 2 out, 4-1 Houston. Bottom half of the 3rd.
And you would guess with the slight uppercut that Anthony has that he's a low ball hitter. And that's where Russian strength is.
Ordinarily, you wouldn't think of the Astrodome as a site for home run derby. We've had 3 of them. Eric Anthony, Craig Biggio, Will Clark. Hit sharply, but Uribe is there. He guns Anthony down. And the Astros leave 2. This is what he did his last time up. It's worth looking at again. Look at him just lash that ball. The bat speed through the strike zone. And we'll be back after this. First one to Maldonado here in the 4th. Outside and low. So we've had a couple of unveilings on NBC today. Wally Whitehurst started his first game for the Mets at Chicago. And Eric Anthony making his national television debut for Houston. In Anthony's case, a very auspicious debut before a national audience. Whitehurst, on the other hand, was pummeled by the Cubs.
You know, I think Anthony's last at bat was kind of interesting. Hit it sharply to shortstop after he hits the long home run to right. He doesn't try and pull the ball the next time up and hits it very sharply the opposite way. And that's the thing they liked about Anthony. He'll go with the pitch.
Hit hard down to third. Caminiti guns it across the diamond.
What an arm. Not quite a Sean Dunston arm, I don't think, but close.
Number 9, third base, Matt Williams.
He can wait back on balls because of, well, of course, the artificial surface gets you quickly, but the great confidence in that throwing arm. He's been a lot defensively. He and Biggio are diving all over the place usually, and offensively for this team. They win and not sure, you know, with Biggio, who struggled throwing out guys who are trying too early, and Caminiti after knee problems up and down last year.
Williams bouncer, Caminiti again behind the bat. And Davis accepts the throw as Caminiti has aired it out twice here in the 4th. 2 quick outs.
He'll show you something you can't teach. It's like trying to teach 7 foot in basketball. You can't teach that kind of arm. It's there or it isn't.
Kennedy grounded into a force play his only time up. And this is off the glove of Portugal. Picked up by Ramirez, and he throws on the run to get it.
The right-handed Bill Lee.
Great to be riding with my girl. When we're out on that bike together, she really knows her stuff. She knows riding with a passenger is different from riding alone. She knows you have to lean with the driver. She knows you're supposed to hold on to the driver's waist, and you gotta keep your feet on those pegs. She knows you need to compensate for the extra weight. You have to lean forward when you take off and allow more time to stop. She's an expert. She's taught me everything I know about riding together.
Francis S. Gabreski was just another young man among many who had ambitions to serve his country. He signed up for pilot training at Maxwell Field in July of 1940. In just 2 years, on assignment to England, he would be credited with destroying 31 enemy aircraft. His Air Force career continued into the Korean conflict. By June of 1951, while serving with the 4th Fighter Interceptor Wing, he would add another 6.5 enemy planes to his record, bringing the total to 37.5 enemy aircraft destroyed. Today, Colonel Francis Gabreski is listed among the top flying combat military aces of all time. His was a career that began simply, like every other career in our military heritage. Gabreski's was a career built on dedication and pride.
You will see somewhat of a control behind the back wave at this ball by Mark Portugal. Took some of the speed off it. Ramirez goes to the first base side, has a catcher running. Now that little deflection, Mark Portugal saved himself having to pitch another guy that inning. Yesterday, look at Portugal on deck. Art Howe, the manager, had all his pitchers out 3 hours before the game, practicing balls hit back at them and covering first base, something you rarely see, Bob, during a season. It's usually over with during spring training. He's a sticker on fundamentals.
A 1-1 pitch now to Gerald Young. A called strike 2. Young is second in the National League behind Vince Coleman with 33 steals. But Young has been caught stealing 18 times. Hit sharply, and Thompson short hops him to throw him out. Coleman, of course, had his streak for this year at 45, and overall his record dating back to last year of 50 straight, finally stopped by Nelson Santovenia of the Expos, who threw him out at Olympic Stadium last night.
Well, Coleman and Young last year tied for the league lead in being thrown out, 27 each. This year, alarmingly, Gerald Young has not cut that down. He's getting thrown out more than they like. I think perhaps a little added weight, and he does have a little problem behind the knee. But he doesn't seem to be as quick, and he's getting thrown out by a lot larger margins this year at times.
Portugal thinking about a bunt. Pulls the bat back and takes a ball, 1-1. Ricky Henderson has moved up to the leadership in the American League with 42. 3 back of Vince Coleman for the overall Major League lead.
It's got to make his agent Richie Bree very happy, because he'll be negotiating a new contract for Ricky. I guess Ricky'd like to stay at Oakland.
Here's a soft fly ball to left. Mitchell will tuck it away. And up comes Biggio, who has made things happen. An infield hit and scored a run after a stolen base in the first, and a booming home run to dead center field in the second. Moments after, Eric Anthony had delivered his first Major League homer. About a 430-foot shot to the seats in right center.
How's about that for versatility in the first 2 bats for Biggio today? Infield single, steals the base. That's 14 for 14, and then he hits a long home run to center. He is very receptive to other people's thoughts, and I guess if you listen to Yogi and some of the other brilliant baseball minds here, you're going to learn a lot. Some young players don't care to. They're stubborn and just keep burying themselves, but he is one of those who listens and puts it into practice. Very intelligent young man. It's stretching a little, but what the heck.
Now resourceful in their efforts to get some on-camera time, and it worked. Jammed him, and here's a pop on the infield. Clark comes in, and Russell works his first 1-2-3 inning. An uneventful Houston 4th. We're back after this from your local station. It's of 1-5. They split 4 here, and the Giants swept a 3-game set at Candlestick. So that's really the story of the whole division. A 3-game lead for San Francisco, and they've won 5 out of 7 against their closest pursuit.
Well, it appears to be a 2-team race at this point unless somebody gets red hot. Everybody watches scoreboards, including players and manager. The Astros know that. The Giants have an extended period of road games. They're on a 14-game trip now. Once August 25th rolls around, the Giants play 22 of 34 or 5 in Candlestick, where they've had a very dominating record. So if a move's going to be made, I think Roger Craig would feel very comfortable to go into the end of September with that home schedule, or beginning of September, that home schedule, with a game or 2 lead.
Uribe, first pitch swinging. Doran with a room service hop. And Jose is history. Russell is going to be history too, because a pinch hitter's coming up. Comparing the home and road records of the 2 clubs. Normally, Houston has a much bigger advantage at home than that. In fact, there was a time earlier this year where they were under 500 at the Dome, and normally they have one of the more extreme home field advantages in baseball. Russell's finished, and here's the well-traveled but still useful Ken Oberkfell. Well, this has to be cause for concern beyond this one game and the possible two-game swing in the standings if they lose it for Roger Craig. And obviously, if they win today, they're 4 up, and the Astros can creep to within 2 if they hang on and win here. But the larger concern, considering how racked by injury his pitching staff has been all season long, is what does today's outing say about Rick Russell?
Well, basically, he may have to miss a start with him again as Trevor Wilson continues to throw. Norm Sherry, the pitching coach behind him. There's kind of a dark horse candidate who may help them. I'll tell you about that in a little bit.
Oberkfell's ball is not caught by Anthony, who makes a lunging try, and Obi's going to wind up with a double as Gerald Young, backing up, fields it near the warning track.
He went after it a little tentatively. I wonder if he didn't lose that semi-line drive to right center a little bit in the lights and couldn't pick it up. You'll have to get used to the conditions in the Dome. A lot of shadows here, a different kind of lighting.
Well, I say it not because of this play, but because of what everybody has told us in the last couple of days here. He is not a polished outfielder, and they wouldn't try to present him as that. He's only 21 years old, and he's only been in professional ball a couple of years.
Well, he's already showed in this ballgame why he is here this early, for his power, but he does have the potential to be a decent base runner, maybe even a little bit of a base stealer under certain conditions. And with his throwing arm that he showed last night and his better than average running speed, he's got a chance to be an outstanding all-around player, but they're going to have to take a few rough spots with him.
He showed a very good arm last night, as we'd been told, when he nearly threw Brett Butler out at third. Butler tagged on a fly ball to right and tried to advance from second to third, and had the ball not skipped away from Caminiti, they might well have had him. There's a liner by Butler that's caught by Ramirez at short.
Bob, we were talking a while ago. Now Lacasta's back in the starting rotation, and Gareltz is starting, but that dark horse candidate, a very familiar name to Giants and National League fans, Dave Dravecky, pitched 9 innings yesterday. Now, just a fantastic rehabilitation program after the cancerous tumor was taken off his left bicep. So he pitched 7 innings. We're at San Jose, 9 innings at Reno, I believe, yesterday, and it's quite a comeback. And there's a chance he could be pitching in the big leagues in August, which is just remarkable.
They'll move him up to Phoenix now for a couple of outings, and if all goes well, back to the big club.
Not throwing as hard as he once did, but with good control, sinker and a slider, it'd be quite a story.
Okay, a ball and a strike to Robbie Thompson, who was flied out and struck out. Portugal working here in the 5th with a 4-1 lead. Astros with a run in the 1st, 3 in the 2nd on homers by Anthony and Biggio. A solo shot by Will Clark accounts for the Giant run, and a called strike 1 and 2.
And Biggio, I'm sure, likes to see the location of that pitch being called a strike. Outside, but maybe outside with a couple of inches given to him, perhaps by pulling the home plate umpire. Stays right out there and tries to shoot that corner again.
Oberkfell at second after a pinch hit double. 2 out, top of the 5th. Bouncing ball toward Ramirez. Rafi plays it cleanly and throws him out. Astros halfway through. Russell had pitched 5 shutout innings in Atlanta his last time out. We'll go back to that pitching line on him in just a moment. Here's Trevor Wilson out of the Giant bullpen. They had won that game over hard luck John Smoltz and the Braves as 3 other pitchers combined to finish the game, and they won 2-0. But he was lit up by a pair of home runs today, gives up 4 runs, all of them earned. Here's Ramirez with a tapper. Wilson cuts in front of Williams. His low throw is dug out by Clark, and on a nice play, Ramirez is retired to start the last half of the 5th.
You can see Trevor Wilson's eagerness. The play would have been easier for Matt Williams, who's playing and waiting there, but he just takes the ball right away from Wilson. Throws the ball hard. Nice play on the other end by Will Clark. Wilson throws the ball in the low 90s. Good slider. He has control problems. He started 4 of those 8 ball games. His 9th appearance today. So Al Rosen's done a job, the general manager for the Giants, because he got Bedrosian giving up the 2 left-handers to Philadelphia, Cook and Mulholland, 2 good irons, but he's still got Trevor Wilson. He's got Remlinger and Gunderson, 2 more very, very good left-handed pitchers in their farm system.
A little delay as a beach ball is retrieved from out on the warning track. For a while, as you mentioned, Tony, Trevor Wilson was in the starting rotation. Pressed into service because Gereltz and Hammaker spent time on the disabled list. Both are back active now. Mike Krukow is gone for the season, and his career has a giant question mark next to it with a rotator cuff injury. Another strike called to Doran. And, of course, Dave Dravecky won't be back until August at the earliest. And Kelly Downs, right-handed pitcher, is out with a shoulder injury, too.
Plus, I think Wilson, at this stage of his career with control problems, fits in better in spots like this. Somewhat pressureless situations, middle relief, long relief, where he can work on things, learn to throw more strikes.
Switch hitter Doran turning around and batting right-handed against Wilson. Glenn Davis next. Fastball grounded foul.
Guy who many people think is the MVP on this ball club. You can go to their bullpen, backed up by Dave Smith, Anderson, Parwin. Some of them have had good years. Davis with the home runs. And here's a second baseman to switch it, steal your base. I mean, he's a rock at the double play and still drives and runs, and it's third for you. Hard to find that combination. Even when he's slumping, and he has done that within the last couple of weeks, he's still, you can start a runner with him. He puts the ball in play, and he's so valuable defensively and with his leadership qualities.
A one-out walk for Doran. Now it'll be Davis. An infield single and a strikeout. Bob Lillis, the Flea, the former Houston manager, to the right of Roger Craig.
I think Frank Howard, when they played together in the Dodger organization, nicknamed him the Flea. And compared to Frank at about 6'8", a little slender this year, anybody's a flea.
Davis has hit 21 home runs, and wait a minute,
balk.
here's a balk.
Yeah.
Frank Pulley came springing out from behind the plate, and Wilson has balked Doran to second.
Which may have been about as bad a thing as could happen, because now they may just take, they're doing him a favor. They probably will walk Glenn Davis now with first base open. I guess he did not come to the stop. The term discernible has been taken out of the rule book this year, and Pulley out in a hurry with first base open now, and then you've got Poole and then switch it to Caminiti. See if they pitch to Glenn Davis. If they will, they'll pitch very carefully if Trevor Wilson can.
Down and in, you can see as Davis awaits the pitch, that new exaggerated practice swing. It's more like a golfer's arc as he tries to set himself, and that's what caused him problems last night as he nicked the face mask of Terry Kennedy on the backswing, and it negated a single which he hit on the pitch.
Yeah, but you talk about a politician. Kennedy saw his Giants get the call, whether it was a valid call or not. And he first said he hit my glove, and then he said, what did Doug Harvey say? Hit the mask. Oh, yeah, hit the mask. Mm-hmm.
The 1-1 pitch. Doesn't get it. Speaking of Doug Harvey, we'll see him midway through the 7th on our Rules of the Game feature, as always. Wilson trying to keep it reasonably close for the Giants. Davis pulls it foul. The plate umpire today, Frank Pulley, asked us to send along a personal message. Son Michael Pulley celebrating a birthday today, and we assume watching. Happy birthday, Mike.
Won't sing to you, Mike, but happy birthday. Well, Bob might, you never know as this game progresses.
Why would you make that assumption?
It's just a little chit chat, you know. So, just in case, set you up. Wilson seems to be able, this is the first time we've seen him, to change speeds on that hard breaking ball. He took a little off the slider, was a little bit bigger, threw one hard one that dove down.
2-2. Following this series here, and tomorrow Mike Lacoste will go for Roger Craig. He's 5-6 against the major's top winner, Mike Scott, who's 16-5 for Houston. 2-2 pitch, got in on him, and another foul ball. Following this series, there will be 9 games left head-to-head for the clubs. 6 of them at Candlestick, 3 at the Dome.
You know, that little conference, I believe, after the balk was called and Davis still up, Terry Kennedy, I think, relayed a message from Roger Craig saying, just don't throw him strikes. And Glenn Davis has strung about 3 pitches out of the strike zone already.
Here's a drive to very deep left, and all Mitchell can do is watch it leave.
They wish they'd have walked him now, or not thrown him a strike.
Number 22 for Davis, the 4th in the game. A real rarity in this ballpark. 3 of them hit by Houston.
Well, there's a slider that stayed in the strike zone, belt high. And it's asking a lot for a young pitcher who doesn't have control to start with. That's been a little bit of his problem, to try and throw a lot of balls to a guy like Davis who swings at a lot of bad pitches. He finally made one too good. I was surprised right from the start that he wasn't intentionally walked. Little pat to Yogi. Say, Yogi, just like you told me to do it.
So now Davis moves into a tie with Darryl Strawberry for 3rd place in the league in homers. Mitchell has 33, Howard Johnson 26. Strawberry and Davis each with 22. 6-1 Astros. And a number up the first baseline foul. They've gotten homers from the top, the middle, and the bottom of the order.
Boy, if that guy had some protection around him. And you've got to remember, they've been struggling for a leadoff hitter, at times a 2nd place hitter to get on base. So Young's been their Biggio today. They hadn't had a lot on in front of him, nor much protection behind him.
On 0-2, a hard shot to short. Uribe backs up on it and throws Poole out for the 2nd out here in the 5th. So Terry's now 1 for 3. And here comes Caminiti, who's walked and singled. All season long, Kevin Mitchell has had outfielders around the National League craning their necks to watch his 33 homers leave ballpark after ballpark. In this case, he got a dose of his own medicine. Before he could turn around, Davis's arching drive was in the mezzanine. Two 2-0 to Caminiti.
You know, aside from Art Howe and a pretty good pitching staff for Houston, and a good defense, I think one of the reasons they are where they are right now, contending, is they've got a lot of hungry ball players. And Caminiti is one. We mentioned Biggio, and they hope that Eric Anthony will be the same kind of player, hungry, wanting to make their mark in the big leagues, get their salary up to a higher level. That's part of the secret of the Montreal Expos too, under Buck Rogers.
Big crowd at the Dome, now amusing itself by executing a wave. That one floats inside, 3-1. This is the Astros' first 3-home-run game of the year, either here or on the road. Biggio, Davis, and Anthony have all connected. This might be another one. Back goes Mitchell. That's number 4.
Clark fastball. Well, they're saving it for one of the biggest crowds of the year. Remember when a lot were complaining where April and May they weren't drawing people? Well, they've been averaging a lot of.
Here's Anthony, who started the home run parade. He's jammed on it and fists it back to Williams at third, who catches the soft pop to finally put the capper on an inning that produces 2 more Houston homers. Woo! Norm Sherry with Wilson reviewing Trevor's travails. Boy, was he roughed up in his first inning of work.
Perhaps talking about getting on top of the slider a little bit more. Might have been a little flat, for Glenn Davis especially.
Clark has walked and homered as he bats here in the 6th. Portugal with lots of breathing room, leading 7-1. 8 hits for the Astros, half of them home runs. Davis, Caminiti, Biggio, and Anthony. Clark has number 16 for the Giants. One and 2. Mitchell on deck, then Maldonado. Portugal comes in with a record of 1-1. Bounces one, and Clark goes after it. Biggio has to gun it down to Davis to make it official.
I couldn't tell what or who that hit. After Will Clark went after it, if it hit Biggio or if it hit Pulley on the foot, looked like it was heading back to the backstop. Hard breaking ball just goes off the glove, forearm, and pops right back to Biggio. So they get another break.
That's 5 strikeouts now for Portugal. He's gotten Mitchell twice, both times looking. Swing and a miss. Our producer George Finkel informs us that a thunderstorm has erupted over Houston. The rain is pouring down outside, so this is one occasion when even the purists can say thank heavens for the dome. Dips just beneath the knees. These Astros and the Expos are the only 2 teams in the league Mitchell has not victimized for at least 1 home run yet this year. Inside, 2-1.
There's not a whole lot of finesse to Kevin Mitchell's swing. He swings hard at everything. Breaking ball out over the plate. I don't believe he's pulling the ball quite as much as in past years. Seems to hit home runs. We saw him Atlanta to right center field, left center field. You get the off-speed stuff, he'll pull it. He uses a heavier bat than any other of the players in the Giants, about 36 ounces. Big Daddy's bat. Russell's picked it up a while back.
On 2-2. Moves him away. Full count to Mitchell. It's not often that Kevin submits as meekly as he has the first 2 times up against Portugal, who had him fooled both times, and he never got the bat off his shoulder as he looked at a 3rd strike twice. Can it happen again? This time he goes down swinging.
Oh, what a sharp curveball. Hard curve from Portugal.
A half-dozen strikeouts for him now. And the dubious hat trick for Kevin Mitchell.
And the pitch prior to that one in the count may have been the one that set this up. Remember when they came way inside with a fastball? Put that thought into Kevin Mitchell's mind.
Maldonado now. He's walked and grounded out. And one of the vexing problems for the Giants in an otherwise happy season, along with the injuries to their pitching staff, has been the lack of production for Roger Craig by this guy, Maldonado. Here's a guy who in their division-winning season of 1987 hit .292 with 20 homers and 85 RBIs. This year, batting behind Clark and Mitchell, he's driven in 34 and he's hitting just over .230. Slams his bat down in disgust as he lifts a fly to shallow left center, and Poole makes it a 1-2-3-6. Portugal is sailing along. And we'll be right back. As we come back live, Trevor Wilson just missed high to Gerald Young. 1-0 to the number 8 hitter.
The trainer wrapping that hand. Don't know when he did that sliding. Look at this. Is that what you call a gamer? I hate to use that cliche, or a competitor. Look how dirty he is already.
Biggio swaggering around that dugout. 3-0 the count to Young. Portugal on deck. Walks him on 4 pitches. Tomorrow, Tony, as you know, NBC Sports World sizzles with red-hot hot rod action. Funny car champion Kenny Bernstein, 4-time Top Fuel winner Gary Ornsby, all-time pro stock champion Bob Glidden, and the nation's top dragsters burn up the track at famed Englishtown, a mecca of the sport since 1964. The Budweiser NHRA Super Nationals tomorrow. Now,
but you, of course, you're going to stay home and watch this. You are?
Well, naturally.
I've got to rotate the tires on my car. I think I may miss that.
My question is, what happened to Big Daddy Don Garlitz, Roger Color Me Gone Lindemood, and TV Tommy Ibo? Those were drag racing legends. Here's the bunt by Portugal, and a good one. Clark's throw to Thompson, successful sacrifice.
Good one, because he spent whatever time he has in the American League, and you don't see too many at-bats. They will have to watch Gerald Young off second base. They give him a little bit of room. The Goose is up. No longer the closer. Second all times to Raleigh Finger. Saves. He's had to change his style of pitching. No longer 96, 97. Still gets the ball up there 90. But he'll try and sink it a little bit. Little slider.
Biggio, infield hit, stolen base, scored a run, 2-run homer, and then he fouled out to third. Fastball for a strike. Checking on Biggio, his home run in the second inning was a solo shot.
Hit the part of the ballpark, you wouldn't think he'd hit it. Dead center field. You know, years ago, I'll never forget watching baseball on television, the World Series, the late Jackie Robinson and Pee Wee Reese. Jackie would get on second base, and Pee Wee would fake that bunt down the third baseline. Third baseman would charge, and Jackie would just breeze into third base. And you'll see Gerald Young with Biggio up, because now they're 2 strikes. It changed a little bit.
He goes to the opposite field for a base hit. Young comes scampering toward the plate. Maldonado's throw is cut off by Clark, and they've got him hung up. Now they run Biggio back toward first, and the tag is applied.
Good execution defensively by the Giants. Hit the cutoff man, Will Clark, in the proper spot. If they let the ball go through, Biggio breezes into second base. Will Clark wisely cut it off. Talking to Dusty Baker, one of the Giant scouts, he said, things that you do not know. Here comes the throw from Maldonado, whose arm is strong but can be erratic, but not this time. But Dusty Baker saying that things because of Will Clark hitting the way he is and for power and aggressive, you forget. He said he's the best base runner on our team, one of the best I've been around, and an excellent, excellent knowledge of the game defensively.
So another run to make it 8-1. Here's Young scoring.
Well, Gerald Young, of course, is watching Rafael Ramirez, not watching the throw. Ramirez saying, stand up, they're cutting it off, so he just slacks on.
Williams from well behind third base takes care of Ramirez, but the fun continues for the Astros. They tack on another one. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Mike Smithson threw a 2-hitter at Cleveland today. He's 5-9. Bud Black, the loser, 8-8. Nick Osaski had his 17th home run as the Red Sox win 5-0. Seattle jumped all over Storm Davis. 8 runs in the top half of the first. Storm retired only 1 man before Tony La Russa hooked him. Now they're in the fourth. 11-2 Mariners over the A's. And as many of you saw earlier today on NBC, Chicago pounded the Mets 10-3.
Boston staying close. You got Rice back now. Barrett and Burks have been hurt a long period of time. Bodeker's red hot, and you got Roger Clemens going every 5th day, and well, they're close. All of a sudden, it's been about a 14 race over there in the American League East. People keep talking about Toronto. They're playing better. They're just 4 games out. Cleveland 3.5 out going in today. Of course, they lose.
It's really a 5-team race.
Yeah, Boston 6 games out in the loss column.
Or 6 if you count the Yankees, which I think is a mirage. But
well, it's 7.5 games out in that division. Who the heck knows?
0-2 the count to Matt Williams. He'll be followed by Kennedy and Uribe. Oberkfell, who is in the game as the second baseman now, occupies the 9th spot in the order, and the pitcher's spot comes up second. A chopper over the mound. Doran from what would be the outfield grass. Got him.
He gives you that tremendous strength up the middle. Rafael Ramirez, who made a lot of errors early, is beginning to play more steadily at shortstop now also. Gerald Young covers the outfield gaps. So with Biggio's improvement behind the plate since early in the season, it's a team that's got pretty good strength up the middle, led by Doran.
Kennedy has twice grounded out. Seattle not content with an 11-2 lead. They up it to 14-2 in the 4th. In the air, center field. Gerald Young just gliding. 2 down.
You know, we've talked about the defense of Houston because of this big ballpark and the turf. They probably use charts more sophisticatedly than anybody else. Bill Wood, the general manager of Majors Business and Statistics, started out in the Dodger organization. He's been in baseball for 20 years. There's Eddie Napoleon, who is on the phone throughout the game with 2 people. Billy Joe Bowman, who's behind home plate, gives them every pitch, speed, and everything else so they can adjust for the hitters and location. Run all this stuff through computers.
Looks like whoever was on the phone with him then was telling them a joke. Maybe he's just amused by what's transpired. 8-1 Houston.
That fellow we just saw, Eddie Napoleon, on your screen again. I don't think anybody's had more to do with Bo Jackson's success than Eddie Napoleon. Had him in the Instruction League of the Royals in Kansas City. He's going to move the defense now. I wonder if something happened to Portugal. That's what they're looking at. I think Portugal threw that last pitch, and a couple of infielders run in, and here comes Art Howe. And he catches cleats. Hanging curveball, and I don't know if he caught his cleats and sprained the ankle or just fell down. We'll get one of the trainers out. That's Jimmy Ewell, the trainer emeritus, who's sung with Willie Nelson. They've done specials on ESPN on Jimmy. Great bass fisherman. The man, Sunfield, saved J.R. Richards' life. He was right there when J.R. had the stroke here and the Astrodome working out, and Jimmy Ewell was right there. So we're going to let the old timer get a little camera exposure.
Portugal misses high to Uribe. 1-2. Top half of the 7th. Down 7 runs. The Giants have 2 out and nobody aboard. If this holds up, their lead will be trimmed to 2, and they have to look at Mike Scott tomorrow.
Coming back on 3 days rest, and boy, were there some accusations when he beat the Dodgers the other day. Said he was scuffing the baseball. Orel Hershiser took off on him publicly in the newspaper, and then said even when Phil Garner was with us. And I think Orel made a bad mistake. So Phil Garner, who's now a Houston coach, told us that Scott cheats when he was with us.
Called strike 3. Look at this Portugal.
Really something. What a curveball that was again. How about?
He's got 7 Ks. And here's another edition of State Farm's Rules of the Game. The thrill, the Boogie Bear, and Roger Craig's whole hum-baby show against Tommy Lasorda and the Dodgers in a special primetime edition of the Game of the Week. Marv with the pregame show, then Vin and Tom with the call from Dodger Stadium at 8 Eastern Time, Tuesday night.
Gossage and Manwaring in now. Roger Craig.
There's Greg Litton. He's the new shortstop. So we're going to have to check and see where everybody is hitting, but we've got a new battery as we take a gander at the goose.
Oh.
A strike to Doran, 0-2.
His ERA is good. He's not the strikeout pitcher he once was, but he's getting up in age. Hits to innings pitch are still very good for Gossage, but it's a matter of he's walked more now since he's been a Giant than he has struck out. But he's in the transition, as we said. And to move the ball around a little bit more, make better pitches, and not overpower people.
Hit sharply to right, but Maldonado virtually in his tracks to make the catch.
That's a guy that's very important, not Gossage, but the man who's starting to swing the bat better, Billy Doran.
Here's the way they line up, as you might expect. Gossage hits 8th, replacing Uribe in the lineup. Jose made the last out in the 7th. Litton, the new shortstop, will bat 2nd. That used to be Thompson's spot. Obergfell, the second baseman, is hitting 9th, having pinch hit earlier in the game. And Manwaring, the new catcher, assumes the old catcher's slot in the lineup. With Kennedy gone, Manwaring will hit 7th. Glenn Davis, bouncing ball to short. A chance for Litton. Easy hop. 2 quick outs. And Davis made his way down the first base line in a very gingerly fashion. He's favored that left ankle.
Well, with this kind of lead, he's not going to try re-injure it. He set himself back.
The last time the Houston Astros hit 4 home runs in a game in this park was June of 1976. The last time they had 4 in any game was September of 1987, when they connected for 4 at San Diego. To Terry Poole. In that game 13 years ago, June of 76, they hit 4 home runs here in Houston, but lost to the Reds 8-6. Bob Watson, now the assistant general manager, hit 2. Leon Roberts hit 1, and Enos Cabell also had a homer, but they lost to Cincinnati 8-6. Terry Poole is quickly dispatched by Goose Gossage, who makes very fast work of the Astros in the bottom of the 7th. But Houston's content at this point, up 8-1. Don't take this seriously, folks. Here is the madcap Larry Anderson accosting his teammate Eric Yelding. You sit down here. Obergfell on the first pitch here in the 8th. And Young takes care of him in center field. This telecast, folks, is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
9 in a row set down now by Mark Portugal. 16 wins, Mike Scott.
He pitches here tomorrow. As you mentioned earlier, Tony, and then the inning ended and we couldn't elaborate on it. Orel Hershiser put it this way about Scott. He said it's distressing to watch him because he just cheats up a storm. And everybody knows he keeps the sandpaper inside the thumb on the glove of his left hand. Everybody in baseball knows it, says Hershiser, and they won't do anything to stop it. And as you said, he indicated that when Garner was a player here and subsequently went over to the Dodgers and was a teammate with Hershiser, he, Garner, told all the Dodgers how Scott did it. Now Garner finds himself as a coach with the Astros and certainly doesn't like to hear that kind of talk. Doesn't mean it isn't true. It just means he prefers not to hear it.
I think the days really of using the sandpaper after Greg Gross was caught and Nico with the foul. And there's Phil, old Scraps, who will manage somewhere someday in the big leagues. But I think those days are done. It is really too chancy to take a chance of a suspension in the pennant race. Somebody finds sandpaper near you on the mound or in your glove. And if there is some doctrine of baseball, I don't believe that Mike Scott would try it with sandpaper anymore.
Bouncing ball, second base. Doran with the flip to retire Butler.
Of course, Mike Scott says it's the hard split-fingered fastball that puts that made him successful.
In their next 2 games against the Astros, and obviously the race in the West boils down to just these 2 clubs, with the Padres and Dodgers and Reds too far out of it to be taken seriously at this point. In their next 2 games, the Giants have to face Scott. He'll finish this series, and they've juggled the rotation so that he finishes this series tomorrow and opens the series at Candlestick on Friday. So he could personally draw them even. Assuming that the teams keep pace with each other during the week, Scott could personally get them even by midnight Friday.
He's had one of those Cy Young kind of years, isn't he, to this point? Still a ways to go. 2 tough months. That's Jim DeShays to the right of your screen, who's been very, very effective and picked up the slack. Bob Knepper struggling. Boy, you got to have a horse like that, don't you? Mike Scott. Boston had Clemens in their big years and Gooden for the Mets. Hershiser for the Dodgers last year. That's what Mike Scott means to this team. More so with Clancy gone.
Greg Litton at the plate.
Ryan gone, excuse me. Clancy replaced him.
Called up from Phoenix in early June. Portugal's 1-2 pitch. Fastball hit in the air to right center. Eric Anthony is over and calling, and the rookie has it. Scott will wipe that smile off his face and get down to business tomorrow. For now, he enjoys an 8-1 Astro lead. Just turning around at the edge of your screen is Harry Spillman, just up from Tucson. And the others were Larry Anderson and Bob Forsch. There's Anderson in the middle. You heard about his latest adventure?
No.
He had a parrot tattooed on his right bicep. But he says it's a temporary tattoo that should come off in like 5 or 6 days.
Like one of those you get in Cracker Jack and you wet it and you put it on.
A line to center for a hit by Caminiti. This is Donnell Nixon, who's just come in the game, replacing Brett Butler. He throws it back in. So it's not a permanent parrot. If you were going to have a parrot tattooed on your arm, that would not be a minor decision. So you want to kind of see if you like it first.
I don't believe that minor bird's even in the same family as a parrot, is it?
They both can talk.
It adds to the story considerably. So Roger Craig in this ball game giving some of his players a rest, something they badly needed. Uribe, of course, out. Now Brett Butler. Butler was rested a couple of days on the road trip. He was in a slump.
Gossage is 0-1 to Anthony. A drive to deep left center. What a day on national television. Tell it goodbye.
They're saying it didn't go out.
Wait a minute.
I believe that ball hit.
Wait a minute.
The yellow line.
I think that ball hit above the line and bounced back.
Nobody is coming out of the Astros dugout, nor are any of the coaches arguing, Galante or Phil Gardner. Yeah, that's what they're saying. Galante is saying, he's signaling, saying it's safe, the ball was in play. I think they looked from the dugout, Art Howell, the manager, and said, was it or wasn't it?
Boy, they all slowed to a home run trot.
Second base umpire Greg Bowden, the ball got out there so fast. He tried to get out, but because there was a runner on first, he couldn't go out too far. He had to watch the guy touching the base. So regardless of the fact that it is just a double, it'll show you the power in all directions that Eric Anthony has.
Watch it again. Mitchell turns as if it's gone, and it does hit the top of the fence.
Just below the yellow line. Boy, what power. Did that ball get out of there in a hurry? Wow. And that's another reason they like him. He's not a strict pull hitter. So he can handle pitches away, off-speed pitches. He doesn't try and pull everything.
He had a homer his first time up, grounded out, popped out, and now narrowly misses his second home run. This ball's fouled down off Young's leg. Watch it one more time. Mitchell turned as if he was conceding that it was gone. Anthony was in a home run trot, and it hits right at the yellow line.
It'll be a while before we know whether or not Eric Anthony is for real. But for now, on this day, they have found the power hitter to help back up Glenn Davis.
Almost the 5th Astro home run. Fans booing, thinking that if you're going to brush a guy like Young back, a speedster, the place you throw is at his legs.
The slider by Gossage.
Wasn't his intent. infield is in. And the count is out full.
Think about Eric Anthony. I doubt. I shouldn't say that, but he doesn't even know who he's batting against, I don't think. I mean, Gossage isn't what he once was, but Russell.
Chopper, Clark's got it. Runners will hold.
Which is probably nice. Talking to Anthony this morning, he said, you know, he said, it was a thrill. He said, I was so happy to be here when I got called up yesterday. He said, but that is over. He said, that was one day of enjoying and loving my father who was at the game last night. He said, from today on, I start working to stay here, not just happen to be here. So that'll show you the kind of level-headedness that Eric Anthony has.
A round of applause for Mark Portugal, who's working on a 3-hitter. As a hitter today, he's 0 for 2 with a sacrifice. For the year, he's 1 for 6. His one hit was a double. So Caminiti lined a single to center. Anthony came within inches of his second homer, hit the top of the fence for a double. 2 strikes to Portugal, runners at second and third, 1 out. And the Astros trying to break into double figures here, leading already 8-1 in the bottom half of the 8th.
Wonder who his agent is. Mark Anthony, 21 years old.
Portugal couldn't even smell that fastball from Gossage. By the time he pulled the trigger, it was in Manwaring's glove. Round of applause for Biggio. Infield single, stolen base, scored a run, solo homer. His second time up. Then he fouled out and then had an RBI single.
And when you talk offense, you so often forget what he has done defensively to this point. He's called a heck of a ball game, and that's something that Yogi, Les Moss, Art Howell worked on. Pitch selection with Mark Portugal.
The 280 incorporates the 3 for 4. He's raised his mark 7 points today. A ball and a strike. Would have scored from first base on the double by Anthony. Bouncer down to Williams. He'll throw across, and they had runners at second and third and come up empty. Would have scored had he been running hard, but everybody in the park thought the ball was out, and they were all trotting thinking Anthony had the homer. So they settle for the double and get nothing. A look at this week's American and National League leaders in the standings for the Rolaids Relief Man Awards. Of course, the Giants have had to go to their bullpen. Trevor Wilson was pounded around. Goose Gossage has worked a couple of scoreless innings.
You know, one of the fine relievers in baseball, especially the National League, Steve Bedrosian, has struggled on this road trip in save situations at times. He came out when they got him to the Phillies. His first 5 opportunities, 5 saves. Since then, he's had a little rough time with his control.
Eventually, we'll get the standings for the Rolaids Relief Man Awards up there. It's Clark, Mitchell, and Maldonado. Portugal trying to put the finishing touches on an 8-1 victory. Only Clark has put a blemish on his afternoon. A long solo homer in the third. Hits this one sharply. Behind the bag, Reynolds, who has just replaced Davis, shovels it over to Portugal. They got Reynolds in there, who doesn't usually play first base, but the veteran is very versatile and can be used in a variety of situations. They got him in there because there's no point in having Davis take another innings pounding with that left ankle bothering him.
Right now in his Major League career, he's played every position except pitcher and catcher. In fact, he was telling me he's batted in every position in the batter's orders. In the other league, he batted 9th with the DH. Very versatile player. Can still play short, second base, third base, pinch it for you and get on base.
Believe it or not, Kevin Mitchell has been to the plate 3 times against Portugal and struck out all 3 times. Twice looking, the last time swinging. Puts his bat on this one, lofts it foul. Reynolds sprints over near the railing, no play. Here's the Rolaids relief standings. Russell of Texas being chased by Doug Jones of Cleveland and Dan Plesac of Milwaukee in the American League. And a pair of left-handers, Mark Davis of San Diego and Mitch Williams of Chicago, out front in the National League. With the Reds losing so many games, John Franco hasn't had many save opportunities, and we saw him last Saturday when he did have a chance, and one of the few times he has ever failed to come through, as Montreal got 5 runs against him in the bottom of the ninth to win 6-5. Portugal's 2-1 pitch to Mitchell is high.
Once they gave Mark Portugal a little pad and a few runs, he started challenging hitters a little more. And of course, he is finding out as he goes around the league, these bigger ballparks, he doesn't have to be quite as fine as he would have to be with the DH and the smaller parks in the American League.
Well, Mitchell never gave any of the fielders a chance today. 3 strikeouts and now a walk.
21, right field.
Maldonado 0 for 2 with the base on balls thrown in. Candy began the day hitting .234. The former Dodger is just 28 years old. So you would think that there should be good years ahead for him, but he's had trouble the last year and a half.
He's had a lot of trouble with fastballs up and in. And then when he starts opening up that front shoulder to get at the fastballs up and in, he's so vulnerable to pitches away, breaking balls and off-speed stuff, or even fastballs. And Dusty Baker's work with him. And one day he thinks he's got him just right, and the next day it's gone. There's the changeup. Again, sitting on a fastball and way out in front. Something he has done very well, Portugal. Changed up, straight change, and also changed speeds on the curveball. When he's needed the hard curve, he's gotten it over. Or gotten it near the strike zone. It's been so hard, he's gotten hitters to swing at bad pitches.
Portugal's terrific performance overshadowed a little bit by the long ball performances of his teammates. They won't get 2 and they might not get anything. Nope. Low throw, and they do punch him out at first as Reynolds, coming in for just an inning, has made 2 fine plays. First going behind the bag to take a ball off Clark's bat and make the shovel throw over to Portugal, and now digging this one out.
Ball gets stuck in Caminiti's glove, and then he pops out of his hand, didn't have a good grip, and he's still, only because of this great throwing arm. Yes, the ball does bounce, but he threw it so hard in that long skip, was scooped out by Reynolds.
Matt Williams now, who's 1 for 3, is the last hope for the Giants. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Terry O'Neill. Coordinating producer for baseball, John Filippelli. The telecast of today's game in Houston, produced by George Finkel. Directed by John Gonzalez. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Pregame directed by Doug Graber. Technical directors Gil Muro and Richard Sansevier. Breaking ball, foul back.
So the Astros will be back with just 2 games behind. And they put the lid on this one with Mike Scott coming back tomorrow and 3 days rest.
Mark Portugal, the 27-year-old who has never had a winning season in the major leagues, had been with the Twins prior to this year. Williams swung at it, Frank Pulley says. 0-2. Portugal up and down twice between Houston and Tucson this year. And in the heat of the pennant race, he's done the job for Art Howe. Many come to their feet. He comes to the plate and misses outside.
The tendency after that pitch would be for a Matt Williams, who's not a good breaking ball hitter, to look inside fastball after one way, but I think he's going right back to the hard curve.
Bouncing ball is foul. Barring the miracle of miracles, Russell will be the loser. He'll be 13-5. Portugal will be 2-1 with the victory. .602 have seen their Astros do just about everything. Hit the long ball, run the bases, play good defense. And this guy, Portugal, trying to get the complete game. And Williams making him work for it.
You know, the makeup of this Astros pitching staff, and Les Moss has done such a wonderful job the years he's been here. Clancy pitching a good ball game yesterday after some struggles this season. Scott, Deshae's pitching well. Loden coming back, and that bullpen they've got. That's why they should stay in contention.
Got him! What an appropriate punctuation for Portugal. 8 strikeouts. A complete game 3-hitter. Only Will Clark's homer in the 3rd separated Portugal from a shutout, and he's never had one at the big league level. Meanwhile, Eric Anthony has a homer and a double in his 2nd big league game. Biggio, Davis, and Caminiti also have round trippers, and the Astros move to within 2 of the Giants.
Hi, I'm Gary Carter. Did you know that 20 years ago, leukemia and related diseases took enough lives to fill almost any baseball park in the country? Today, thanks to the Leukemia Society of America, we're getting closer and closer to finding the cure. Today, more and more people are surviving leukemia, but we won't stop until everyone does. The Leukemia Society of America, we're closing in on a killer.
The Game of the Week has been brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Mr. Goodwrench. Mr. Goodwrench knows it's not just a car, it's your freedom. By the divisions of General Motors, makers of fine cars and trucks. And by Kellogg's Corn Flakes, simple, delicious, and surprising. Taste them again for the first time.
You already saw Anthony and Biggio. This is Glenn Davis. And then a bit later, Caminiti did it too. The Astros played home run